Is Randall frozen on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, I'm pretty sure I heard you clap, but I definitely didn't
see
you clap. Yeah.
Just staring, clapping off camera.
Just like, I clapped under the table today.
The rhythm is innate. Let's try that again.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hello.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey, folks.
And we are back, as always, to talk about some video games. And it feels like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm always feeling rusty on these. Like, ever since I've moved back to Michigan, we've been a little more sporadic on our, recording schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Recording on a Tuesday instead of a Thursday today, just shaking things up a little bit. I know I've been a little bit busy on my end for sure. And I know everybody, like Randall's had some company in town. John's had some company in town as well.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just been kind of like juggling our schedules and whatnot. But thankfully, we bulked up nice and effectively before I made the trip back home to Michigan, so been able to make it work in the meantime. But yeah, I'm always feeling rusty on these intros and whatever. But anyways, to just get into some of the stuff that we've been kind of chipping away, I feel like we've all been kind of just like playing some random stuff, like not really digging super deep, although we got plenty to talk about, I'm sure. But
oh yeah,
I recently on the most recent Save It for the Cast episode, which is probably a few weeks past now at this point, talked about digging into some Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge. Randall and I talked about that way back when it first released, which is like months ago now at this point. Like,
oh man,
what was it, back in like June or July, maybe like early August?
Jeez, was it? Oh god,
it was quite a while ago because we played it like right when it came out on Game Pass. And I remember our buddy Glenn, who we've mentioned a number of times on the podcast, and our fellow bandmate with John and I, like he kept saying like, oh, we got to sync up and play some Turtles online because he bought it on Switch like digitally right when it came out. And I was like, oh, I pre-ordered it on Amazon, so I got to wait for it to arrive, like get my cartridge, because I can't do cross-platform on it, I don't think. I think you can like on Xbox and PC or something, but not on Switch to Xbox. So I was like, oh, and originally it said it should be arriving August 31st. So I was like, oh, I'll have it by then. And then it just kept getting pushed back, and I just got it at like the start of November when we're recording this. But that said, I've only had the cartridge for like less than a week now, and I've already busted it out on 3 occasions.
Oh, man.
I mentioned on the Save It for the Cast, like when we got cut off on the Mario Kart section, we were just like, okay, let's jump over to Turtles, since the online guy that we were playing with was jumping off, and we were like, hey, we can do up to 6 players locally. We only had 4, but it was so much more chaotic than when just you and I were playing, Randall, like having 4 players as opposed to just 2. And it felt quite a bit harder to me too, to be honest. And then the other day, I can't remember why. Oh, my brother just got off work a little bit early, and he lives right around the street from my parents. So he called me on the way home. He's like, hey, Kev, you want to come over and play some video games? He was like,
hell yeah.
My wife's grandma's coming over later. He's like, but I got a few hours to kill. And I was like, hey, I got that Turtles game that just arrived. So we actually did play a little bit of Mario Kart with my sister was there too, because she's been babysitting for my brother's son, or my nephew, I guess. And yeah, we just were like, okay, let's play some Mario Kart. And then after that, we ended up switching over to Turtles, thinking, like, we played Mario Kart thinking that'll be an easier one for my sister to get into. You're just kind of driving and steering.
Sure.
But she was way better at Turtles compared to Mario Kart. Like, because I was like, hey, it is just a button masher. I was like, this jumps, this attacks. Hey. There is way more depth to the combat, like we talked about before. Like, it really is like, it has like almost like fighting game combat.
Yeah.
Like I still was like learning new things. Like, if you're like running and you jump, you like do like a slide tackle. Like there's so many different elements to the moves.
And you're unlocking moves as you're going through, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, if you play at least if you play on story mode. I don't know, because the arcade mode's like slightly more difficult, like more limited lives, so I don't know if you have that like level up progression. But yeah, I don't know 100% for sure, but yeah, you do get some new moves along the way. And every character plays pretty differently. I've played now with Donatello when you and I played, Randall, but then I switched when I was playing with my pals. I was playing with April, who has some pretty cool moves. Like it just like felt really nice and snappy. She's a little quicker, a little weaker, but like you can just get around the screen really quickly.
Right.
And then I played with Raphael when I was playing with my brother and sister. And yeah, it just felt, I don't know, that game just feels so amazing.
Oh, like, they nailed it.
We'll talk about some more action from Tribute games later on the episode here, but I just think they just absolutely knocked it out of the park in every regard. Like, I'm just, once again, like, the music's amazing. The pixel art's incredible. Like, it just, I don't know, you would think kind of that stuff sometimes loses its luster the second time around or the third time around, but it's just like, nope. I could tell my brother especially was like, we got to finish this game. Like he was like really dedicated. So, and
well, you and him probably played through Turtles in Time a gajillion times. I'm sure.
A million times. Yeah. And even like the NES ones, like it was definitely, very nostalgic.
But
yeah, more so Turtles in Time. We definitely played that one a ton growing up.
Yeah.
And it really does like it feels like such a great like modern take on that game. Like it almost feels like, it's obviously not a remake of that game, but it almost feels like the same level of treatment that like the Wild Guns remake or the Pocky and Rocky like reboot remakes or whatever that we've talked about from in games and Ninja Saviors. Like it almost feels like it's on that level of like love for the game, and it's like a spiritual successor.
I would agree with
sequel
that.
Or whatever.
Yeah, there's some of these developers are really they know what they're doing and they're going all out, and it's not a cynical cash in, and it's like much appreciated. It's so good. It's better than I would have ever expected.
Definitely. And again, just the depth to the combat, all the little cutscenes in between where it's just like kind of a static image between each stage, like leading into the next one, like with a little voice acting. Like it's just, they didn't miss a single mark on this game whatsoever.
No.
I'm very, very happy to have it in my collection. I'm assuming you received your copy as well, Randall?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've got that and the other Turtles collection as well. Yeah.
Cowabunga collection. I didn't actually order that one yet. And I know you mentioned too, you're like, hey man, those like licensed. Like games, you better jump on them while they're available because they might disappear.
Mm-hmm. At the very least, you will get your money back because they will hold their value.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless they put out a newer version of it, then in which case it probably wouldn't. But
even still, all those the people who are like collectors, true collectors, like they want to have every version of every of their favorite games or whatever. So
yes.
But yeah, I just was like really pleasantly surprised because like it sort of felt like a little unmomentous or whatever, just playing it on Game Pass. Like even though it was still awesome to play it, but it feels really cool to like own it and pop in a cartridge and like just play the game. Like, I don't know. It feels a little more official, I guess.
I love collecting those cartridges. That's why I've got a huge Switch collection because they released a cartridge-based system, honestly.
I know. It really feels nice to just like pop those in SD card style too.
Yeah.
Even though it's like kind of a little wonky sometimes. Like I'll plug in a cartridge, it's like it doesn't register or whatever. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, why don't I kick it over to John with what you've been kind of still chipping away at since last time we recorded?
Yeah, I can't drag myself away from Cozy Grove. I've been doing it not every single day, but pretty much every day that I can, that I boot up my Switch. I'm booting up Cozy Grove, just logging in, doing all my like daily quests and helping these bears reach the afterlife. Like,
yes,
it's just as the title says, it's a cozy little game, and it's really nice to just have something that like. It's very similar in the way that like playing Stardew Valley is like you're never going to run out of time. Like there's always the next day. You can always like, and you have nothing. The only barrier for you accomplishing everything you want to do in that game is just playing it. Like you just got to put in more time and then you can do it. And like every day, like I'm like, I'm not going to be, I could wait for, all of these resources to respawn in like an hour or so, or I can just come back tomorrow. And honestly, that's just what I've been doing. And it
sounds incredible.
Nice.
Yeah.
And like
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Even like every once in a while, I'll be like, I'll get a quest that's not necessarily one that will advance the plot of like this specific bear, but it'll be like, like it has a little icon that shows that it's just like one that you need to accomplish in like the next 12 hours. Otherwise it'll disappear. And I'm like, you know what? Not doing that today. Like, just don't want to do that. And like, there's no penalty for that. It doesn't like make their storyline like decrease or anything. Like, it's just, don't want to do that. Don't have to. And
keep the stakes low.
It's really nice. Like, but like, I definitely am like testing the limits at some parts of it because like I've got, the livestock that I'm raising that I've put all in one place. So anytime I like get all of them on screen, like the system just chugs like nothing else. But
you got to min max. You got to min max.
I am definitely minning the FPSs that this game is running at. But
like a lot of Switch games these days, unfortunately.
Yeah, for real. Especially with my Switch getting a little older. I don't know if that's what it is, but in my head, I'm just like, it must be getting old on its way out the door. I do play it a lot, so
same. But yeah, it's just still having fun. Like, did all the Halloween or I guess it was, they didn't come up with a cute name. The Winter Festival's coming up, and I'll see what that means. And I'm a little bit fearful that all the plants that I planted that are all labeled fall and late fall are not going to have anything in winter. And I'm not looking up any guides. I'm just enjoying this game as it is.
Yeah.
So
heck yeah.
We'll see.
So this has really filled the Animal Crossing void that way.
Yeah. And like every once in a while I'm like, man, do I want to boot Animal Crossing up? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do want all my villagers to be passive aggressive at me. Like, that's not any anxiety that's keeping me from it. But
there's like cockroaches or whatever in your apartment. I remember that on the DS version at least.
Oh yeah.
But no, this one's been scratching that itch, and I don't feel the need to play anything else like it.
Is it pulling any of your attention away from Genshin at all, or are you kind of doing both of those on a daily back and forth? I was like, maybe multiple. One, you know. I feel like I could only like have one like day if I had like a game where I was doing like a daily challenge every day or a weekly challenge. I can only like kind of focus on one thing like that at a time, I feel.
Yeah, it's the active combat in Genshin versus just the like checklist and collectathon. Like, I gotta catch every fish, I gotta catch every bug.
Yep.
Yeah, it is really nice that it has those kind of built-in limits, because like with a difficult game, like you're just like, okay, I'm getting my ass kicked, it's time for me to take a break. With like a game that you're just kind of chugging away, planting more crops, you can just easily lose days, if not hours, if not days. So
yeah, which is what I do when I play Stardew Valley.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. And speaking of spending hours, if not days, on a video game. Although I don't know if you've clocked hours or days yet on this new version.
Probably days. Probably days. Days.
Because you can do it. You can kind of, at least with some of the stuff that you've talked about before, you can kind of do it while you're passively doing other stuff or conversing or whatever.
Not as well conversing, sure, but not as much, because NBA 2K yet again, 2K23, the My Career mode. So yeah, not the spreadsheet mode, but the actually playing the basketball part mode as a person. So my dude MP has won a championship with the Detroit Pistons.
Nice, bringing one home to Detroit.
He has slain his foe, his arch enemy that was talking shit on social media. But the problem is too, I kind of tipped the game over, and I've done this in the past with like when I played the My Team mode, where unfortunately there's like the virtual currency stuff is kind of baked into these experiences, and like to level up your character, it's this combination of playing it and playing the quote unquote right way, where you're building up your badges, and that's really interesting because you go from a bronze to a silver to a gold, and you kind of have to target which badges you want to get. But also, as you're kind of leveling up, the way that you actually complete a level up is by spending virtual currency, and you can buy virtual currency.
Of course.
Yeah. So because I had some virtual currency from the pre-order, and I put like a little bit in, but not a ton, I kind of tipped over the game a little bit, where like, now I can level up as soon as it's available, where I think people that are just grinding it out have to play like games and, 1,000 virtual currency at a time, they're getting the currency, but, it takes 17,000 currency to, level up at a certain level. So it's, but I already had the currency, so I could level up quicker, and then, you get the stuff faster, and then
you could play it at a fun rate.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it's cool to win. It's cool to go like whatever 68-14 is as a rookie, on the Detroit Pistons, a team full of young talent, but not very realistic to be the 16th overall pick and end up as like a 95 overall out of 100 by the end of the season. So, now it's like, I signed with the Trailblazers in free agency because for whatever reason, they didn't lock me in on a rookie scale contract. So
get paid, baby, get paid.
Yeah. But then
that's
that also
GM's
allowed me to be
fault.
like, okay, I can detach from this a little bit. I've accomplished my goals. This game is now kind of too funny money, where like, it's I've kind of done the things that I've needed to do, and while it's fun to play mindlessly, this will allow me to detach and complete the games that I said I was going to complete this year, or at least try to. So
yeah,
it's a good endpoint that way for me. Endpoint. I still played it today a little bit, but I'm trying to escape it at this point.
And nice to get through a full season too, as like that solo player mode. Like, I don't know, that's still that is a little intriguing to me again, especially after I know I compared it barely, but like I brought up kind of how Rocket League, you're kind of playing as like an individual player, and like how engaging that feels.
Very
so part
engaging.
of me is and the fact that you're able to only lose 14 games while only controlling that single player is pretty impressive, because I do always find it really interesting in sports games, because like for example, I played a lot of Madden growing up with like my brother, and like I think you play 5-minute quarters, I think is like the standard length of a quarter, but you would still like, and in real football it's 15-minute quarters.
Sure.
And like, so a third of the length of the game, yet you would still be able to like run up the score like you would never see. You'd win like 72 to 14, and it's like,
of course,
man, if we played like full length games, like this is unreal. Like like just getting the difficulty and like the kind of realistic balance feel right. So like, and then adding into that, like playing as a solo player, like I don't know, it just sounds really interesting to me. Like getting that balance right, or just seeing how they approached it, because obviously it's never gonna. I'm sure if you played full length quarters in NBA 2K23, you'd probably be able to run up the score quite a bit too. Or do you play full length quarters?
No, it's definitely like a faster timer,
like
type
a sped
thing.
up clock.
I played all 82 games for what that was worth, and I started out on the bench.
That's no joke.
That's
dedication.
I was gonna ask, like, so you won the championship, like, is that like beating the game and like seeing credits, or does it still have like post game or like the next season? Like,
it's definitely more like it's seasonal event. It's very much more an online focused experience. My career, like I played it more like a single player offline game. Moreover, like I was just focused on the season.
Yeah.
Especially once I got through the most of the storyline BS, I kind of just put my head down and just kind of next game at a certain point, instead of doing all the side quest stuff or story stuff or whatever else, So
yeah, just kick Jake from State Farm to the curb, man.
Yeah.
I was gonna do your dailies to craft a better ball and rim.
Oh yeah, you can do all that stuff. Let alone there's like in this my career mode, part of what they also tell you besides winning the championship on the team you're on is like there's 4 sectors of the city that you can walk around in or skateboard around in or whatever, and then you're supposed to like beat these guys in street ball and control that part of the city.
What is this Travis touchdown bullshit?
Yes, for sure. So I haven't done hardly any of that stuff, to be fair.
Okay.
But I don't know. I need to move on. I have to beat Panzer Dragoon Saga. Like, that got put on the back burner for too long, and it's November, so it's
speaking of the back burner, I got Luigi's Mansion 3. My copy's still sitting in Chicago, and I'm like, John, I gotta come this weekend and pick up my games. I forgot I like stuffed a bunch of my games in this one box, and I'm like, oh man, I don't have like any of my cartridges for my Switch stuff here, which is why it was nice to get that Turtles copy in the mail. Just like, okay, not that I don't have hundreds of other games downloaded right on my Switch, but still, it was just like, okay, guess I'll pop this in since I got nothing else.
I mean, that's a great one to pop in.
Yeah. Well, speaking of popping in Switch games, and I think this is hilarious too, because I feel like we've done this a number of times. Like we literally had a discussion on the podcast about how John was like, yeah, I'm not getting this game. Done with it. Don't really care that much. Or it wasn't so much that so dismissive, but
this
it was definitely like
I
don't think I'm going to get it.
John was full of shit, saying he wasn't going to buy
not buying another game.
And we would have an episode where John explicitly says that he's not interested and going to buy this game. Maybe I'll buy it later when it comes out. Anyway, so I got Splatoon 3. And after being all high and mighty and saying that I wasn't going to get it because it's the same game and Nintendo, blah, blah, blah. And what actually happened was that my sister called me and said, "Hey, your godson is talking nonstop about Splatoon 3. There's like Splatoon. Do you know what that is?"
I do.
And I said, "Yes, I do."
Can someone calm him down?
And yes. So I FaceTimed with my godson and like talked about is like, "Oh, so what do you like the squids? Do you like the music or what the fashion or all the paint?" And
Yeah.
so yes, he was very excited to hear me talk about this post-apocalyptic fashion and music.
It's adorable.
But yeah, I picked up 3 and I started playing it. I did the tutorial area to unlock the preferred control scheme. So I was like, oh god, gyro controls still that you have to go through this.
John, you don't have a pro controller though, right?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I got but I'm just like I can't do gyro controls on Splatoon specifically. Like
I was gonna say, I thought you preferred. I thought we used to call you Gyro John in the early days of the podcast. That might even be an episode title.
I love it in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah,
like that is the
and it does feel good
because that you use
great.
it to like fine tune it. Whereas like if you have gyro controls on with Splatoon, like it is default. You can't do the Y-axis with the control
you have
stick.
to like hold your hand like still like at all times until you're trying to aim.
Right, but you can't even adjust the Y-axis with anything other than gyro. Like you can do X-axis, but you can't do Y, and like that's a deal breaker for me. So I just turned it off.
Not to sidetrack onto Breath of the Wild, because it did feel I didn't use the gyro a ton, but when you would do like that dismount off of like your horse, and then you would do like a bow and arrow shot in slow motion, and you could kind of fine tune it with the gyro. Oh, that felt so good in that
perfect.
game.
Oh yeah, that was ideal. But anyway, Splatoon 3. Guess what? It's the same game as Splatoon 2, and they didn't really do anything to change it. And like they even to the point where they have you could carry over your data if you had Splatoon 2.
Oh,
which
that's kind of cool.
All it really did, at least for me, because I played it, but I didn't play it obsessively or to the point that most people who played it competitively did. It gave me 3 gold vouchers, which I was able to use on any of because typically you have to level up by playing matches in order to unlock new weapons. But if you have those 3 those golden vouchers, then you can unlock anything, like regardless of level. So I was able to skip that process and unlock, 3 higher level weapons that I enjoyed.
Okay.
And guess what? They
Paint
control
roller?
Yep. So I mained a roller in 1.
Yeah.
And they slightly tweaked it in 2 and maintained it in 3. So I'm dead weight if I play roller in 2 and 3, which is a bummer because I loved playing it in 1.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Really satisfying.
It was great. Yeah. And
yeah.
it just moves a little bit too, like it is the finest tuning of adjustments. It's not like massively
but it makes a
different.
difference.
It makes me really bad on our team.
Especially with those types of games where you're so like, it's just muscle memory and like quick reflexive actions and reactions.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I played a little bit of the single player just before it like really opened up. And that is cool and fun. And there's this whole new like kind of card game based mini game that you can play that I played a little bit of. But at the end of the day, it's exactly the same game as 2, just with like slightly different things. They have a battle pass, but the battle pass isn't. I don't even know if you can pay to like how other battle passes work. It's just like a seasonal thing where if you play it more, you get little things to decorate your locker with, which is cute. And like, but also it's kind of nice because then it's not like this whole like, oh, pay this money and you get like I don't know, a new weapon for this season.
Exclusive weapon.
Right. You get an exclusive emote like dabbing, and
that's almost a little better too, because even thinking like I bought like whatever version of the Mario and Rabbids game that came with like the pixel weapons, like not the new one, but like the first one.
Yeah.
And like those weapons were so overpowered, but you had them right at the start of the game, and I'm just like mowing down enemies. Like it's like, oh, this game didn't really start getting fun until, even though it was very well designed, it was like, oh, I obviously just like bypassed this difficulty curve for the first like, world and a half of this game until it started like catching up to my weaponry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Splatoon 3 actually is, and you did mention that you can skip the intro sequence now, which was my biggest barrier for someone who like would occasionally get the itch to be like, oh, I kind of want to get better at this game. But it's in the same way that I talk about with Rocket League, where like now when I feel like playing, I'm like, oh shit, I don't have the newest season downloaded. Now I got to download it. I just like, it just gets me out of the feeling of wanting to play. So the fact that you can just be like, okay, these are the maps, or I know what they are already, I can breeze right through this, or I don't care what they are, just let me start playing. Like that alone has me like a little tempted. I don't think I'm going to end up buying it because our buddy Mikey, who is also in the band with John and I, had mentioned to me, he's like, Kevin, don't buy Splatoon 2. You're not going to like it. You're not going to like it.
Yep.
And I was just like, no, but I think I might. I think it's, it's a Nintendo game.
It's fun for however many matches, but you're not going to get your money's worth out of it. Like,
yeah, I know. And I won't with 3 either, but just that tempting, because I've seen some clips of those single player campaigns too, and they do look sweet. Even that Octo expansion looks so cool.
The Octo expansion was cool, but again, it's not worth
yeah, and because I even thought about buying that at one point. I was like, I already dropped $60 on a game that I played like twice. I'm not about to buy a $20 DLC of that Octo expansion, like just to play, 100%. Just to make this game a playable thing for me.
Yeah, it's so nice to have a go-to online multiplayer game.
It really is. I miss Rocket
and
League.
What would be nice if the internet worked on Splatoon 3.
Yes.
So it's not really a go-to if you. I don't know. It's become a meme apparently online, and I've also experienced it where you I've been disconnected more times in 3 than any of the previous ones, which I don't know if it's just
bummer
growing pains with them figuring out server stuff, but it's not great.
Yeah,
damn.
I guess you can pretty much count on Nintendo for that kind of stuff. Although it's usually a little better with like, at least with Mario Kart, and I haven't played Smash on Switch, but it seemed like their main releases, they did
with either of those.
Yeah, Mario Kart, not really either. Like I mentioned, our session got cut short, but it was just because one of the guys like had to run up and either grab a drink or run to the bathroom, and like it didn't touch the controller for too long, and then it was like, oh, there's an inactive player, and ended the session. That's why. But otherwise,
just flip it over to a CPU or something, Nintendo. Yep. Come on.
Yeah. I know. Just something. I know.
Yeah.
Especially because we weren't even actually. I said this on the Save It for the Cast too, but like we weren't even playing like an actual online session with other people. It was like all people that were like in a party together, and
all
then
friends.
Like, all other computer players, like
Nintendo friends.
So it wasn't like we were playing like competitive Mario Kart or as competitive as it can get.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I am glad to hear that you picked up Splatoon 3 though, because I feel like you did love Splatoon 2. So
yeah, it's a great series.
Maybe we'll get some salmon. We'll get some salmon runs in one of these days.
Oh, that's still I will always take co-op over competitive any day.
Agree.
Yeah,
so
me too.
That's
it's just a little more lax. Like competitive, you have to like get up on like your A game, like even when DJ and I would play Rocket League back in the day, like I could tell like when I wasn't on my game, he'd be like getting pissed. I'm like, I kind of just want to play for fun. I don't really care that much. I want to win, but it's not the end all be all.
Mental energy is sacred. Only have so much.
Yes, that's a fact. But yeah, why don't we jump over to one more game before we jump over to Randall's latest adventure. But John and I both have recently been playing another game from Tribute Games, which I mentioned that we would be talking about earlier on when we were talking about Turtles. We've been playing some Panzer Paladin. And I think I realized the reason I picked this one up, and actually I think you picked it up first, John, it was on sale for half off on Switch. And I had just played through Steel Assault, which I talked about on either a Save It for the Cast or a previous episode of the podcast, which was sort of just published and like co-developed by them. I don't know exactly, because I saw that they weren't the actual developer on that game, but it still has their energy and whatnot. But yeah, after Turtles, like they just really don't miss. And I was like, okay, this is half off. This is the only one I don't have. It did have a physical release at one point, but if I wanted it now, it would set me back about $90. So I was like, okay, I can just stomach buying this for $10 digitally right now and just accept the fact that I missed the limited edition window. Because I think it was either limited run or special reserve or one of those kind of one-off physical copies. But anyways, scooped up Panzer Paladin, and I've been really enjoying it so far. I actually saw John play a little bit of it over at his place before I moved back to Michigan. Before I had a chance to dig into it myself, I've been kind of chipping away at it. I've beaten 2 levels so far, and then like played maybe 2 or 3 other ones. But this game is kicking my ass. It is not an easy game, and the levels are decently long too. And it has a pretty interesting checkpoint system, which is actually one of the more interesting things about the game, in my opinion. On top of it just being like a really solid, all across the board, like the visuals are top notch. It's got like a kind of 8-bit NES aesthetic. I don't know if it's definitely not going for the true aesthetic. It's widescreen and all that stuff, but
like Shovel Knight.
It's very, yeah, exactly.
But it does have the limited color palette too of just
it's like
5 colors.
It uses, it really leans into that like kind of pinkish orange color, and then like the kind of bluish and or greenish blue
NES
and it just
palette.
like, yes, and that combo works so well. And I remember when I was over at John's, they even have like a part of the game where you can like draw your own weapons, like pixel for pixel. And it was like, holy crap, like this actually looks pretty good. You could even like offset how the character like holds it in their hand.
That's
like,
cool.
It implements itself into the game in a way that you're like, oh, that kind of looks like you can tell that John drew it, but I don't know if I would have known if I didn't see him do it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can make ones that look super janky and whatever, but if you take time to make a cool one, it's like, oh, you can make a cool looking weapon. And it's got very much like that Mercenary Kings in its DNA, which we've talked about on the podcast as well. Another game from Tribute Games, but you're like collecting a bunch of weapons along the way. Like you're kind of like almost like Breath of the Wild style, kind of like breaking weapons all the time, cycling through new ones, using like the ones with bigger reach or do more damage or different just weapon types. There's like, like hammer types or sword types. There's, I don't know if they have names or whatever, but it actually took me a little while to figure out that like after you died, you can go into your menu and replenish your supply of weapons. I was like, man, this is impossible. Because I mentioned that checkpoint system, so every time you get to a checkpoint in the game, you have to actually like use one of your weapons. And I think you can hold what, John, like maybe like 5 or 6 weapons in your like on hand inventory at any given time.
Yeah. There's like a 4, I think, item cycle, but I don't know if that includes the one you're holding as well.
Okay. Yeah. So like 4 or 5 weapons that you can kind of just use the shoulder buttons to cycle between. And then when you get to a checkpoint, which again are pretty few and far between, they're pretty spread out. But you have to actually like take your weapon and like kind of like sword in the stone style, like slam it into the stone. And that is what sets your checkpoint. And then you're able to like kind of like risk it, almost like if you're like playing like around the world or something in basketball. And you're like, I'm going to chance it. Like, this is my last chance to beat this boss. You can actually pull your sword or your weapon out of the stone. But then if you die, you have to go back to the previous checkpoint that you placed a sword at. So you're kind of like, there's a little risk reward in there. If you're like, I'm on my last, life, this is my last chance on this boss or whatever, I'm going to pull that weapon out and, it's a good weapon. I need it or whatever. But yeah, it's a really cool, it kind of reminds me even a little bit of Blaster Master on the NES because it is strictly a side scrolling game. But you are able to like hop out of your like mech suit and then scroll around, again, still side scrolling, but you got like this little kind of small sprite character that you run around as. You have like a little electric whip that you can like whip enemies with, and you're obviously much weaker than when you're in the mech, but you can go into like these secret little passages and like fill up some of your mech energy, although it's a very minimal refill on the health on those. But I'm like, okay, but you can do some like grappling hook moves. It's just a really cool game. I haven't quite gotten into the groove with it, but it's partially because I haven't had like a proper time to like, hey, I'm sitting down to play this for a couple hours. I'm just like, oh, let me play handheld and try to beat a level. And I'm like, man, I can't even beat this one stage right now. But yeah, I've been enjoying chipping away at it and plan on, continuing to do so. But what about you, John?
I was going to say that of the tribute games, like Flint Hook, I think is one of my favorite. How did I not
mention that? Yeah.
Flint Hook's incredible.
Like the movement.
Yes. That specifically, I think that Flint Hook is extremely satisfying to play and move around in. And
yeah, even if you're not good at it, it's really fun.
Yeah. But like playing both Panzer Paladin, I think, and Mercenary Kings, I think those are much closer together in how the platforming feels.
Yes,
and by which I mean it is not enjoyable to me. Like I went back and replayed some more Panzer Paladin, and like I was like, okay, I'm gonna go in, like I know what these levels are like that I was kept dying on, so like I'm not gonna go in like being like, oh, I don't know what the next screen's going to be. I like know how the level is laid out, I know how the enemies are going to attack me, and I know like what their patterns are. And it didn't make it any easier, and I was still dying on like a lot of like platforming challenges, like not even like when there were no enemies on screen and it was just like single like platform
like a spike
jumping
pit.
Yeah, and I was like, this isn't fun. This, and like the most fun I was having like was with like the boss battles and like the combat and like the fun mechanics of exploring like levels that aren't necessarily like, oh, this jump has exactly 0 give on it, and if you do not jump at the exact pixel, you're just gonna fall down this bottomless pit and you're dead. And I'm like, this is not what I like about these games or this developer. Like, I really love the freedom of movement and like the combat, but yeah, between like, I don't know, like I don't know if I'm gonna be playing a bunch more if like that difficulty is just gonna keep being there, and it's if I'm mostly going to be dying like in either pitfalls or like environmental stuff before I even get to a boss.
Yeah, I feel, and again, like I mentioned with the checkpoints, like few and far between, you have a limited number of lives. I do love how it's like kind of Mega Man style. You can like pick whichever stage you want from the get-go. Maybe there's like another secondary wave of stages or something, but there's like 10 or 12 stages right from the jump that you can go tackle in any order you want, other than the very first one, maybe. But yeah, I've been really digging this one, but I do know what you mean. It gave me that similar, like when we talked about Cyber Shadow on the podcast, Randall, like when I was like, I'm loving this game, but I'm like not in that retro frame of mind where I just want to keep getting my ass kicked and like trying this section again and again and again.
Cyber Shadow grabbed me a lot more than this game.
Okay, so you have put some time in.
I wasn't 100% it out of the box,
sure.
Baby.
Yes, because you got that $90 physical copy before it was $90.
I just looked it up. Apparently, it's a little down from that. You can get it for about $50 now. But,
okay. I think for what it's worth, I think it was just I saw a price for it on Amazon, and it was like somebody just jacking up the price. I got a copy of this.
Yeah, so it's one of the games that I brought with me to the thing we're going to talk about next, the Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
Perfect.
And I'm like, okay, you guys are talking about this game. I've got this game. Literally, it's sitting on my shelf. I have no excuse, and it's right up. It should be right up my alley. The NES stuff, all of that is just tailor made for me to hit me in my nostalgia buttons. And I love things like Shovel Knight or the Turtles thing we were just talking about. All the retro revival stuff. I'm a sucker for that stuff too. Right? It's just me in a nutshell. And it just wasn't me in a nutshell. I did not get out of this nutshell. It did not grab me. I don't know. I can't even, maybe John's right with the jumping mechanics. I'm not sure.
It's a little rigid. The jump's a little like stiff and rigid.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't quite put my thumb on why this game didn't grab me because it looks awesome. Yeah. I have no issues with that.
And like the first level, I think is like perfectly. I mean, it's basically a tutorial because it's like showing you how to like do everything, but like I wish like all the levels were kind of that length and they weren't necessarily
the pacing. Maybe that's what it is. You know?
I do agree. The pacing feels a little off.
Yeah. I don't know. It just didn't. I tried a couple of times. Like, I got this with me. I purposely didn't bring a bunch of games, and I don't know. Like, I tried different levels, too, because like you said, it goes Mega Man after you beat that first level, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I like that. You can place this weapon here or that weapon there, and we didn't even talk about how weapons have these, like, sub-passive abilities where you can, like, disrupt them on purpose and regain health or up your defense, or, like, there's little mechanics in there where they've thought this out, and this stuff's cool, but maybe if the levels were just shorter, that would have done the trick. I don't know.
And I do think the mech itself, like, which is you're doing the majority of your platforming in the mech, and you do feel just really like heavy. It doesn't feel particularly like fun to platform around, in my opinion. Even I'm not hating it per se, but I'm not like, oh yeah. But like usually a platformer, it's like that's the best part of the game is jumping over the pits and stuff,
Yeah, at least in
Not that that's what
one
this is
area, like I remember like it was a platforming section in the mech and then a platforming section out of the mech, and like I just kept dying out of the mech, or like my mech would like because the other thing is like if the mech takes enough damage, then you are forced to be like a single player out of the mech.
Right.
And that's a cool mechanic. Like all of these things are cool mechanics. I like all of them individually, but like again, it just doesn't feel great. Like it feels fine. And like I'm sure that if this like it sounds like it's up your alley, give it a shot, because it's a very well made game. It looks cool as hell, and like parts of it do control well, but like I probably am not gonna boot this one back up. Like I'll definitely boot Flint Hook back up, because that game fucking rips. But
oh man, it does.
Yeah, I sort of know what you mean, because, when I first fired this one up, my first instinct was like, because my really only gripe, and it wasn't even a gripe because I like when a game is short and sweet, but with Steel Assault, I was kind of like, it's only like 5 levels. Like, I wish there was a little more of that game. So when I saw this, I was like, if this is like on the Steel Assault level, and then there's 12 levels or 15 levels or whatever, like, heck yeah, it's just more of the awesome. But, like, I do kind of agree. It is a little... I don't have all my games here with me, and I'm still just playing like a short session. It's not like I'm craving my next time with the game. I'm just kind of like, I'll probably chip away at this when I feel like it, but I'm not like compelled to get pulled back into it.
Yeah. Which is disappointing, because Tribute has nailed most everything else,
Yeah, and what is pulling me back in is the visual appeal, and just the flat. Like I like seeing the environments and the enemies and the like, just all the parallax scrolling. Like it's a gorgeous, stunning game.
Beautiful sprite art.
Yeah, like top notch, some of the best. But why don't we just keep rolling into where you were playing that Panzer Paladin at?
In Portland, the Portland Retro Gaming Expo that I've last went to apparently in 2014, says my Gmail account, which is a long time ago.
Yeah,
longer than I thought. And then Kevin and I went in 2013, thanks to something that my wife Tina had set up before.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was truly an awesome time. And I'm sure things are pretty different now, especially after COVID and stuff. Like just any kind of convention like that, I would think has changed a little bit, maybe?
Yes and no. It's same convention floor. I'd say if anything, what's changed is that now retro gaming is a very lucrative business in and of itself. Where like there's vendors that are just there with their like graded games, like, this is Mario Brothers as a 9.25 out of 10, and like nobody touched those booths. I'm not gonna go fucking spend $1,000 on that stuff. Are you kidding me?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Like, I'm not there for that. I'm trying to spend $10 on a loose copy of Circle of the Moon or something.
Hell yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the hidden gems or like, I don't know. It does feel really cool to find like a cool booth that has things priced fairly. And just like, these people are cool.
Which was, it's granted a little bit harder to do. Like there's a couple of times where, I'm someone that likes to haggle, and that was no longer available. And it was like, it's also weirdly, it's just like a little bit of whiplash, despite, I've watched the prices on these things go up over the last decade
just
plus.
Skyrocketing. It's crazy.
It's whiplash to go up and see games that are straight up over $1,000 just sitting there. Like, oh my God, like some of these games I remember seeing for easily under $100, and now it's just gotten out of hand.
I remember seeing, not at this expo obviously, but like seeing like a copy of Super Mario World for like $75, and I'm like, what? Yeah, like it was at a store that was obviously like hiking up the price or whatever, but I think it was at People Play Games in Chicago, but I was just like, what are you, like, this game came with the console.
I literally got my copy of Super Mario World from when Blockbuster used to have, Game Crazy, Game Freak?
Yes. I think it was Game Crazy,
whatever it was, they had some of the retro stuff there, and it was like 75 cents.
Oh.
Yes.
It wasn't a perfect copy, but it was Super Mario World, so who cares?
Yeah. God, you're reminding me I should buy some Wii U games while they're
I know. That's why I picked up Paper Mario Origami King, which I talked about in the Saver for the Cast. Like, it's on sale for $40. I better get it now before it's like 1,000.
That's a good game also.
Yeah, and I never picked up Color Splash, so I was like, I want to get that one eventually. Maybe they'll port it to Switch. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it feels like too late for that at this point, but you never know.
Yeah. So, I went in knowing that, and I was just seeing it in person, like, oh boy, times really have changed, haven't they? Like, it was a good thing that I had my heyday when I did with this stuff.
Yeah.
It is not the same marketplace out there anymore. And then like half of the vendors there are also like game stores in and of it themselves, so they're not going to haggle with you the same way. That's their inventory they can take back to their store.
It's almost advertising for them, like, hey, we're here to just let you know we exist and you can order from us or whatever.
Yeah, but then I'm saying that, but there's still like the other half of the vendors at least are just people just selling their random stuff, maybe getting rid of their collection, maybe trying to trade stuff, whatever else. So I still got, a handful of games and was able to haggle on pretty much all of them. Got some stuff that, I didn't spend a super fortune because I couldn't really afford to, but got like a TurboGrafx game. Got
hey, those sometimes cost a fortune just for one. So.
I mean, and this is a Working Designs one, which, if you know the retro stuff, that's not easy to get one of those for, any decent price, but Kadash on TurboGrafx. So I got that. I got the aforementioned Circle of the Moon for $10. Haggled on that.
Hell yes.
Nice.
Hell yes.
Somehow I don't know if I lost my copy or what, but I like vividly remember buying that at launch, and for some reason I didn't have it anymore, which is not usual for me. But and then like random Metalhead on 32X, which is just like another tank mech game, just because I have a 32X.
Right. Might as well flesh out that collection a little.
Daytona USA Championship Edition on Saturn.
Yes, that's a great game.
Oh, yeah. And it uses the 3D pad that came with Knights, which I have one of those.
Okay.
So, it's kind of an excuse that way, too.
This is such a delightful spread. I'm beaming.
We're not done yet.
I know.
WCW versus NWO Revenge on Nintendo 64.
Yes. I can't believe you didn't have that already.
I know, but I got it for $5. So
okay. Heck yeah.
Honestly, it's not that expensive of a game. The difficulty with games like that is getting one in decent shape.
Right. Because those are always like, even at like GameStop, they would have like that bin of like just all the sports games that were like, it was like, what did you guys do to these? Like soak them in like a water bath before you put them out here?
And you make sure that they sit in the sun for as long as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to see any color on that label.
They were scraping
pure white and blue,
like the sticker on the front of it. They have the name, their own name written in Sharpie on the.
Yeah, all the like the silver shit that comes off from when it's a rental sticker that they kind of sort of took off the back.
The foil.
Yeah, all that stuff. No, this was a clean copy. So I'm like, hey, $7. How about $5? Yeah, okay.
Okay, nice.
And then there's a couple. What I was really excited for, and I didn't end up buying too many of them, was I'm like, okay. My buying of retro games is mostly over, just because the market is dictated as such. Yay, capitalism.
That's real. That's for real, though. I'm just like, the games I have are the games I have.
But I still buy new homebrews all the time. Like, that's where I spend my retro money these days.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Homebrews and, new controllers for old systems, new systems that play old games. That's what I spend my money on these days. And so I got one new homebrew game, which was this like single screen kind of arcadey game called Yeah Beebis 2 for NES.
Okay.
That's it's basically like it's like a retro game inside joke where like, so back in the day in these gaming magazines or catalogs, in the back pages, you used to be able to like mail in, like, check this box if you want this game, check this box for if you want this upcoming game. Like you could, for CDs or for books or whatever else. It'd just be like, rip this page out, check this, send a check for however much in the mail, and we'll get this game to you eventually. So in one of those magazines in the back was this game that never got released called Yeah Yeah Beebus. That's one of the games that you could choose. So then a guy actually was like, in shout out Yeah Yeah Beebus, for the sake of Yeah Yeah Beebus, we're going to create Yeah Yeah Beebus 2 and actually release it. So like
beautiful.
Like, okay.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, they had, it was still fun to go to Portland Retro. I bought a 3-day pass. I only ended up staying for 2 days. The first day was kind of like arcade floor day. They had arcade games and pinball games.
Okay.
Not actually as many as they have at our Northwest Pinball Expo that happens in Tacoma here every year, actually. But that's okay. That's not the main thing you go there for. And I beat Area
just
51.
A nice bonus.
Yeah. I beat Area 51 with a random dude who was like phenomenal at that game. That was a cool experience.
Oh yeah,
that's always fun. Like just having random people jump up on the arcade cabinet.
Yeah, it's like wearing out the arm. Like my muscle still kind of hurts in my forearm from like holding a light gun up for that long.
God, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking the wrong game. I was thinking of Thunder Strike or Desert Strike or like those top down like helicopter games. I don't know what. Yeah, I forgot the light gun Area 51. Those are light gun games are always a blast to play.
So I've never actually seen that game to completion. Like how many levels is that?
At that point, I don't know that I could tell you. I was just kind of in the. In the
just
zone
plowing through
that point in the evening, but a lot of levels, I would say, at least 5, and they were relatively long levels.
Yeah.
How do they have it set up there? Is it like free play on all the arcade stuff, or are you pumping quarters in?
No, it's all free play.
I was gonna say, I think that's one of the reasons I would never see very far into any of those like light gun games because it was like $1.75 per player, but whatever, it was 75 cents. So I'm like, okay, I do like a credit or two, and like, okay, I had my fun, but
and it was always at the movie theater for me.
Yeah, same here.
It was never really like we would do it after we watched a movie or something, so it wasn't like we had unlimited time dedicated just for this.
Right. And you're already like, hey, I just spent like these days like $20 on a movie ticket. And, like, if I even think about getting a snack or something,
I feel like the movie theaters always would have like a good racing game there too.
Yeah.
Good racing, always the DDR.
Sometimes
random like the claw game.
Do one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like Wave Race or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, almost like you get like a little mini like Dave and Buster's action in the movie theater, like those kind of games.
God.
Yeah.
But
so I didn't spend the whole time there either because I will say if you do go to Portland Retro Gaming Expo, you might be tempted to stay at the Quality Inn Downtown Convention Center, but I wouldn't recommend doing so, even though it's very affordable because there's random brown red markings on the walls and there's markings on the sheets. You can tell they got bleach, but you can't get that stuff out.
So
I love the
roughing
lamp
it.
shades, and it kind of smells like maybe someone had peed in the air conditioning unit.
Oh my god!
At some point, let alone smoking in the room at some point too. And
oh my good!
You don't want to necessarily open the window shade either because people can walk right up to it, and it's it's slightly sketchy, but
So convenient locale for the convention,
very
but
convenient
not
locale. Yeah. All that to say, I didn't. That's where I slept.
But did not spend most of your downtime.
That's where
Was
I tried
it fun?
That's where I tried to play. Panzer Paladin. Yeah.
Was it fun flying solo this time? Because I think you mentioned before that this was your first time going out there solo.
Yeah, I guess so. I would have rather had gone with Tina and Fiona, or gone with someone like either one of you guys, or whatever, is that sort of thing, because it's fun to geek out about some of that stuff. But it let me be a maniac. The floor opens at 9 and I was there for
just
5
like I gotta scour
hours.
I'm gonna look at everything they have, hit every booth
multiple
or whatever.
times. I didn't even I don't think I even bathroom braked for half a day there. Just because you kind of get into this trance basically of kill or be killed on the floor in order to try and get product.
We are different beasts, you and I.
It is a fun environment. It's easy to get swept up in that, even when we were there, all those years ago. And I'm sure it's only grown since then. So.
Oh yeah. Yep. It is, but it's still basically the same experience. Yeah.
It's cool. It's kind of like going to it reminds me of going to any of those flea markets I would go to growing up, except it's all video games or video game adjacent stuff. Yeah,
I miss the flea markets back in the day.
Gibraltar and Gibraltar's the main one I think of, but there were a few other ones.
Taylor Trade Town Center, that was one of my best. Yes, yeah.
I think we went there one time, and I remember getting some random. I don't know, just some very random, one-off, super cheap stuff because people there are just looking to get rid of knickknacks and stuff they don't really know. Hey, this game is collectible and valuable. They're just hey, I got these old games in a box.
Yeah, never mind the poor parrots in very small cages or whatever that they're selling at some of those booths. But
yeah, they can be depressing. Yeah, so this is it at least helps. It's okay, it's all video games. It can still be depressing when you're looking at those price tags, I guess. But
then sometimes at Taylor they'd be hey, we just some grandma dropped off 4 new in box TurboGrafx systems that we're selling for $50 each, which is just mind-blowing in today's...
because somebody there just goes, TurboGrafx? This isn't a Nintendo. It must be some knockoff,
Yeah.
Just doesn't know what they have.
Yeah, different world. But I would still go to Portland Retro again. All that being said, I didn't see any of the panels and stuff, but then half the time I'm I don't want to hear nerds make bad jokes about stuff in a Q&A session. I don't have
it can sometimes almost ruin the magic, stuff like that.
I'm good. I'm just here to go nuts on the floor and see everything and then figure it out later.
Yeah. One of these days, John and I definitely have to figure out a way to make a trip out there in sync or something, whether it's for an expo or for some kind of, or the Northwest Pinball Expo. I don't know, just sometime, especially because our buddy Glenn lives out there too. It's we got to make an excuse to just do it during a cool time where we can do some cool stuff.
Yes, please.
On top of that. And you guys meet in person too.
Yeah.
That feels like it just needs to happen.
All these years
someday.
later.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. Any more thoughts on the Portland Retro Expo or anything else this week?
Nah. I'm good.
Nice. But I think we can wrap up the chit chat and whatnot this week then. And as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com. And until next week, we'll catch you then. I was thinking there might be something more to say, but no, I think we can leave it there and we'll catch you next week. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice. Beauteous. A little rambly, or actually almost anti-rambly there at the end.
Yeah, I know. You cut it real short.
I was like, don't I say more? But I was like, whatever.
Yeah, save it.
It's the point across. We're on the internet. We're on the internet.
Oh, man. I've actually been playing a ton of Castlevania Circle of the Moon on the Advanced Collection.
Ooh. Yes.
Oh, it's such it's one of my favorite games.
I know. I can't believe that was a launch game.
I know. It looked
launch on GBA.
It sounds so good.
Oh wow!
I know
that is a great looking game.
I know that it's very dark and the palettes, but with a backlit and
put it on an SP
on a full screen TV. Oh, that thing looks gorgeous.
It does.
Oh,
good soundtrack.
Incredible. Oh
yeah.